do. My name's Darren Winter. I'm the host here of the Like, Click and Share podcast, and welcome to episode 9. We're talking today about influencer marketing, and with us today we've got Emma Krause, and we've got a special guest, Fran.
Hi.
And then we've got Gemma Walton.
Hi everyone. So I'm Gemma, and we all work in marketing and communications, whether as business owners or freelancers, and we're here to talk you through the latest big topics in marketing and how they can grow your business, whether or not you're a freelancer, a business owner, or just interested in how marketing can help you.
I'm Emma. I'm always here to say thank you for listening for us, and we hope that you find this podcast helpful and supportive. So do give us any feedback. We love to hear your comments and your questions, and you can email us. You can find us in all the usual places on social media via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and now on YouTube. Just search for Duco Digital. All the links for the show are in the show notes, and we will definitely hook you up with Fran's Instagram page, The Only Girl in the Gaff. All the links are in the show, so please don't forget to hit subscribe, and you can automatically receive each episode.
Brilliant, thanks very much. And so our special guest today, as I said, is Fran Lloyd, also known as, like Emma was saying, on Instagram as @The Only Girl in the Gaff. So definitely have a click on the link in the show notes. Have a look at the Instagram profile. Fran is an influencer marketer, and that's today's topic. So we're going to talk about influencer marketing, what it is, what's the best way to set it up, why businesses should do influencer marketing, and some of the questions that people should ask first about using an influencer, and lots more. So we've got loads of questions, but first of all, welcome, Fran. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, good to be here.
Great stuff. Emma, we're going to kick over to you with the questions.
So I just thought first, really, you could tell us a little bit about how you came to use Instagram and your journey on it, because I'm not sure that you would describe yourself as an influencer, or maybe you would, but yeah. I think it's a role you it wasn't the why you started to go on Instagram.
Definitely. I did fall into influencing and working with brands, but that came a lot later. So The Only Girl in the Gaff started because I had bought a house. We were renovating it, and I was getting nowhere quickly. I was struggling. I couldn't make up my mind about anything. And funny enough, one of our mutual friends started on her Instagram. I had a private account which was just family pictures, occasional shots of wine glasses, that kind of thing. And then she started up this My House This Month and started doing this daily challenge. And I thought, that'd be good. That will be good inspiration. Each day there was something else you had to post: tiles, rugs, something else. And I thought, right, I'm going to do this and follow it and get ideas. And then I started joining in. And I did it on my own private account for a bit, but I just thought, this is a bit rubbish because not many people can see it. I'm posting things, but it's just friends and family, and I wasn't really connecting with the wider community of Instagram. So I set up a separate one, which was just about interiors. And that's where it started, and it just grew and grew and grew. And it has blown my mind and surprised me how much it has grown and what opportunities I've got from what started as just a bit of inspiration turned into a platform that I have been able to work with amazing brands and earned various money, income, which has gone back into the house, most of it as well.
And so what does that journey look like? How kind of long does it take you to gone through it from like zero to, if you don't mind sharing, and how much sort of time do you think you put into it?
Well, in the early days, it was really quite slow, and I learned a lot quite quickly from other accounts that I really loved. And I used to look at them and think, what are they doing? How are they doing that? How you look at the grid as a whole, but also the pictures. And I think right in the early days, it was before stories, it was before lives, and then reels, obviously, and IGTV. So it was very much just a grid. And I look back at some of my early pictures and they really do make me cringe. Like, I'm just like, oh, what? That's horrible. Why was the post not? But it was still getting likes and reaching different people because I think it was my journey. It was what I'd started off with. Not the greatest interiors, not the greatest ideas. Certainly I wasn't using any apps to edit or anything, so it's very raw. And then I started editing, over-editing, so that was really quite horrible and ghastly when you look back now. So yeah, it was learning from different accounts what they were doing, stealing ideas sometimes, and then reading up a lot of blogs about so a lot of the accounts I followed would have a blog like Lisa Dawson and similar people where they would share, this is what you do, these are the apps I use, this is how you can get better lighting, this is how you can increase your reach. And so it was like a big learning curve. And I think around a year, 18 months in, it blew up I suddenly went from 5,000-6,000 to really growing really, really quickly. And up until about 35,000, 40,000, that happened quite quick. But it had been quite a long learning curve about pictures and content and what I should be doing. And then suddenly it went, and then it slowed down again. It has been quite slow and gradual since.
So I know that Instagram isn't your full-time job. You have another job, and all of your account is very much about sharing your experiences as a working, just normal mother.
Yeah.
Kind of, the kids aren't massively featured, but you talk about them a lot.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's really interesting in your feed that does so well is I do think that people come for the comments, which is against the rules, against the law of Instagram, is that you're meant to not. But I do actually think you are a brilliant writer, and I think that people come for your content a lot. How much time do you think you put into it? Because it isn't your full-time job.
Yeah. I think in terms of writing a caption, that can, for a good caption, the ones that people come back from and say you get a lot of positive feedback. I mean, I can have that in my notes and spend a couple of days rewriting it, editing it. But and time-wise, you could spend half an hour to an hour writing a caption, deleting it, thinking that's absolute crap and starting again. A lot of people who do use Instagram, just the captions very much last minute and it's all about the picture. But but if you're into that, then that can take time. But then it depends what your content is. But for me, what is time consuming is making sure I've got the right light to be able to take a decent picture. And then you can set everything up and you've tidied up the room, you've maybe restyled stuff so you're showing something different, not the same corner all the time. But then the lighting's awful and no app's going to really make it look any better. And then you've got to start again another day. For example, winter, it's horrendous trying to fit that in with a full-time job, being in the house when it's light and tidy, and the kids aren't just throwing their rubbish everywhere. Whereas summer, it's a lot easier. So you can put a lot of time into just setting it up and trying to organise it, just the photos. But then I think what's more consuming is replying to every comment, replying to every DM, and making sure that you give something back to those followers as well.
100%. That's such an important part.
And it does. And it's not, sometimes there's people I've got relationships with who have gone for 2 or 3 years now, and that's quite natural. But then there's always new followers, new people, and they're desperate to get their account seen and to connect with people. And you just sometimes think, I don't have time for you, but you've got to find that time, otherwise they're going to get bored or they're going to lose interest with your account. So. And
it's not social media, and then any brand wanting to engage with you, which I think Gemma, with any brand wanting to engage with you as a potential influencer is really interested in your engagement, isn't it? It's your relationship with your audience rather than just if your picture is good, really. But so Gemma, I was thinking you are particularly interested in and focused on, we know that it's social media marketing, that kind of influencer marketing is a trend in social media that's just not going to go away. It's grown more in the pandemic than ever. And so I wondered what you would ask Fran about that, really.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions to ask you, Fran. The first one is around if you've got any advice for businesses using influencers, if they've been contacted by one and the influencers promised some post and some promotion, and they've actually sent out some items to said influencer, but then the influencer hasn't done what they promised, hasn't shared anything on social media, and then when the business is going back to them and reaching out and asking them to share some stuff based on what they've sent, and they're just being ignored. Is there any advice around that? Because I see I've seen a lot of stuff online in like forums and stuff where people have said they've sent different influencers different things to promote and then they haven't done anything. Is that just a risk that you take? Or is there a way that you can word things? Is there a message that you should put with the item that you send that you're asking for help with? Do you have like do you have a process? Do you have a structure that you follow each time, or does it just depend?
It does vary with different brands, small businesses to big brands. But I do think my advice to people who are trying to reach out to influencers is be really clear and set up some sort of document that through DocuSign or something where they have to agree to your terms and what you want. So it's very clear.
So like a mini contract or something.
It does. And I have, and especially include definitely deadlines, your expectations, but your expectations on each post. So like story reels and grids are very different, but you need to be really clear, like what hashtags you want to be used, your product, if you want it in a more set, like a forced setup, or you want it to be quite natural. I mean, I've had a lot of brands approach me and just say, oh, we really like what you do and we just want you to be creative with it. And that's great because you put your own thing on it, but then you feel like, well, you can't come back to me and then say, well, we don't quite like that at the end. But if it's very clear from the outset that this is what we want one post, we want it to go out at this time, and we want this hashtag, we want the caption to include this, but then we want your own bit on it. And then do you agree to that? Does that sound great to you? And over DocuSign, I've signed some things and we're both really clear on what the expectations are. The problem a lot of small businesses have is when they're outreach, I think they feel they just want to gift the item, but then they might have an expectation, but they've just sent it. They've got, can I send you this in the post? Can I have your address? The influencer's like, yeah, great, send it, it arrives. And they're busy with other stuff. They're getting paid, collaborations which are taking priority, or have other jobs which are taking priority. And it just gets put on the back burner. But that small business or that small indie business is desperate for this. You know, that's really huge to them. They've sent out something for free. It's cost them money and they just want, but they've given it as a gift. So the influencer, if it's done that way, won't feel they're tied to them at all. It'll just be, oh, they sent me this, that's nice. I'll get round to doing that at some point. But if it's set out very clear in the beginning on what your expectations are before the product's even sent, or we'd love to send you this, but we're looking for this in return, and it's really clear, then I think that would be the advice I'd give, because otherwise, if it just a gift arrives and the whole term of gifting, well, it's a gift.
It's a gift,
so
yeah.
I'm not tied to anything. And I think as a brand, you set yourself in like a difficult position that you can't, like you said, they might feel that they haven't got what they wanted, but the influencer hasn't really seen it as a business transaction. They've more seen it as like, all right, that's nice, they've sent me this and I might do it next month if I remember.
So probably
Yes, it might as well, like,
sorry, Emma.
it might not fit. How do you choose who to work with? Like, it might not, people might send you stuff that doesn't fit your values.
I have been approached by quite a lot of different brands and I'm quite honest when I don't think it's going to work. If I wouldn't buy the product myself, I wouldn't be tempted to buy the product myself. I think, well, that's not for me. So there might be certain things that people would approach me about and think, it's not quite my taste, it doesn't fit with the house, I wouldn't have bought it anyway, so I'm not going to do it as a collaboration on the product, like a PR gifting product. if the company then is willing to pay you and you're going to get paid for the post, and it then becomes more of an advert than a collaboration on a PR product, then you've got to weigh up, right, well, if it was my full-time job, say, some influencers are, that's their income, isn't it? They've got to take those opportunities when they can, regardless of whether the product is right. But you've also got a danger then of, my followers aren't going to like this, and it's very clearly going to come across as a paid ad that I'm just making some money on, and they're investing in you, I think, as an influencer, as an account, an Instagram account. They're looking for inspiration, they like following your journey, they like seeing what new products you get, and if it feels that you are almost selling out just to make money, then I think you're going to lose. Yeah, so you are going to end up dropping engagement, but also losing followers as well. So yeah, it's a fine line choosing the right product and how often you sell through an account, which is as an influencer. Because if it is all selling and all ads, or they feel that the account is turning that way, then I think you're going to lose quite a lot of engagement, and you're going to probably lose the enjoyment yourself, that you're doing it as a job rather than because you're passionate about whatever you're trying to showcase, I think, on Instagram.
Thanks.
Did you say you had another question, Gemma?
Yeah, I've got another two. One probably ties in a bit better with obviously what we're talking about. So a lot of businesses obviously can't afford to use celebrities, so they do use influencers, but obviously influencers don't have the same type of like media training as celebrities. They haven't been like vetted, they don't work for a specific agency. They tend to have been people who've started like social media or maybe gone on a reality TV show. Maybe it's had a YouTube channel where they've done like story time videos or whatever, and that's how they've blown up. But you do see them sometimes involved in like scandals. So maybe like James Charles, the beauty guru from YouTube, he was involved in quite a big scandal recently. And I guess it's just to get an idea, is there anything that a business can do to avoid being drawn into a scandal when the scandal hits, and anything really that they can do in advance to like any kind of research or anything that you would advise somebody to look at in advance? I know you talked about the contract there. Could you put specific things into a contract about obviously behaviour? Because it's difficult when it's an influencer, because they don't, like a celebrity or an actor or whoever, they've gone through specific training, haven't they? Whereas you tend not to find that if it's just somebody who's doing like video gaming and talking about that on their YouTube channel, and then overnight they've got this massive success. It's kind of different.
It is, and I think there's a definite risk factor there. And I do think that the advice I would give is make sure you spend a lot of time, if you're choosing influencer, looking through the posts, looking through, especially in the captions, what they write about, but also how they respond to comments as well. Mm-hmm. Can tell you a lot about maybe how professional they are and how they're using. I mean, I fortunately haven't had many negative comments. I would say I haven't had a trolling experience and things, but I think it's how influencers react to that as well will tell the brand a lot about what type of personality and maybe how risky they are. Because if you get an influencer who is quite aggressive to responses, maybe
stay away. Yeah,
treat that one with caution. I'd be wary about that, because how professional they are, replying to comments, replying to DMs, and on their stories as well, will give you a good indication on whether you're going to have somebody who's going to maybe create some scandal later on that your brand's going to be associated with. I'd also say that try and Google them as much elsewhere, not just on the Instagram, see what the platforms are on. Twitter's a good one because people tend to be a bit more
vocal.
If you've got an Instagram account, for example, or a Facebook page, then there might be some other platforms that you may be a bit more free and easy with, and just see if there's anything going on there. So like learn up. But in the contract as well, for your brand, you can say specifically, we don't want any profanity, we don't want any pictures with alcohol. A lot of people don't want children involved as well. They want to make sure it's just like adult for their brand or whatever. So you can put in that contract you set up and that you're going to ask them to sign what your expectations are in terms of things like that. So at least when your brand or your product is being shown with that influencer, you've clearly stated this is what we want, this is like our expectations of how someone behaves when they're promoting this brand.
And if there was like a situation like with a scandal or something, is it better as a business if that was something that hit the news or like people were talking about online and mentioning you were getting tagged into it? Is it best for you to make a statement, or is it best for you to sit back and say nothing? Or again, is it subject to the type of conversation or the scandal that they've been involved in?
I mean, it would depend what type of scandal it was. And obviously, if it's something that your brand or you as a person, if you were promoting, really sat uneasy with you, say some sort of remark or a sexist remark or something that you thought, no, this is completely wrong, then I would advise,
take a
put a statement out there saying, we're really unhappy about this, it's out of our control, it's not what we agree with as a brand, to just make sure it's clear. Because there's nothing worse than being sat around when something's going on out of your control and you feel like you're getting drawn into it. But then just be open and honest and say, you know what, this wasn't what we planned. We're disappointed with this influencer, but we would like to reassure our customers. And then, I would personally say to put a statement out just for you, so it's really clear that.
And I think just the last thing, just quickly, Fran, again, which ties into everything, is obviously if you're a small local business, is there a particular size of influencer that you would recommend reaching out for? Because I know obviously there's different versions. You've got like nano influencers, micro influencers, mega influencers. Would you advise that you reach out to one that matches up to the size of your business and engagement and reach, or would you go bigger, go smaller?
I would. I really would. I mean, you've got to also look at what that influencer's working with, what brands they're working with. So you might have someone like Lisa Dawson, for example, who is very professional. She works with a lot of big brands. But when we were first following her years ago, she would always shout out to small businesses and stories, so you could send her something, knew that expectation. So you knew she is a supporter of small.
She supported me in the beginning.
And I got a lot more work from products I liked and was really into around 20,000 followers. So I'd get a lot more contact of people around them, because I think they were reaching out for somebody that wasn't too big, wasn't going to have huge rates, would accept PR collaborations. So you've got to think of your budget, but you've also got to think of, what are you competing with as well? What is that influencer showcasing? How has that gone down well? And pitch it for the right influencer. And depending what you want out of it, whether it's exposure, whether it's more followers, whether it is actually people swiping up onto your product, getting more traffic to your website or online shop, then which level of influencer can really depend on what you're going to get out of it as well as a brand.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Darren, do you think people should spend their money with, do you think it's a good idea for small brands to invest in such content?
I think it's a really great question. And I think you need to think about your plan or your strategy. You may not even have one, so you definitely need to have a plan or strategy from the beginning. And I think it's about what, like Fran was saying, it's about thinking about what you want to get out of this. So this is for the influencer just as much as it is for the business. But overall, if you want to improve your your following or your engagement levels on social media, or if you want to get more traffic to your page, and you can use your social media channels to do that, then influencer marketing campaign can definitely help you. I mean, obviously you can use paid advertising as well, but they're both very different. So paid ad obviously will just appear in people's feeds, and you'll either click on it or you won't if it appeals of interest. And it all depends on the message you've got with it and with the image. The benefit you've obviously got with an influencer is that person's already in the market that you're probably wanting to get to know or get deeper insights into. So you've already got the benefit, you've got that there already, so you don't have to pay for that bit. So you're just paying for their expertise. And we've listened here today to Fran, who obviously is a very experienced influencer, and she's put a lot of effort and hours, and she cares after her following. That's what you're paying for.
It is.
And people don't see the value of that. And I think it always goes back to social media, when people just come to me and say, right, I want some social media going out, and they just expect things to happen just like overnight, but they don't understand. Even though you can sit there and explain how everything works, they don't see that you have to research the sector, research the hashtags, understand the brand values, understand like the tone of voice, understand what it is in terms of what you want to get out of it, or the imagery, or everything. It's not just as easy just throwing a few words on a page, an image. And I think that if somebody puts it in that way to you, that, oh yeah, this is straightforward, those are the people you should definitely be avoiding. But if you've got the budget, and again, this goes back to what Fran was saying, do look around, do shop around, speak to different people. I know I've been approached for influencer marketing, people charging thousands of pounds. Like, no, I don't. I personally don't have thousands of pounds to spend on a influencer campaign, and I wouldn't even spend it on paid advertising. It's quite a high risk strategy unless you're very cash rich, and you've got to be sure that if you do, you're going to get the data that you want to get out of it. You've got to show you've got a good strategy there. So have your plan, look at exactly what you want to get out of it, and then speak to people like Fran and cross-question them a little bit about what it is, their expertise, how they're going to help you get what you want. And then you'll know instinctively if they're the right partner for you. But definitely, like, Fran's a fantastic influencer. If you check out her Instagram feed, if you're in the interior sector, there's some amazing, the shots look so professional, and the products look amazing. They look really enticing. I think it's the first thing in marketing, isn't it? Anyway, that if you make the shots look really enticing and engaging, you'll want to click like on it. You want to look into it. If they just look like pictures you've just taken on your iPhone, like in your kitchen, or your bad lighting, you're less likely to do it. You're professional, your business might well be. If the picture don't look great, then don't expect people to click on it. I was going to ask a couple of questions to you, Fran. You've talked about best practice, which is great. All the tips have been fantastic, and I've learned a lot myself just listening to you. But what do you think of the key ingredients for a successful influencer campaign?
You've got to get the pitch right. So it's got to be the right product or brand with influencer first. That's the key. So also, you've got to know the audience and make sure that you are not just putting an idea out there, but putting it well thought with, like you're saying, a plan and stuff, but also thinking, you mentioned about research, the hashtags, the caption, but I think you've got to keep it, if you're an influencer, has to come across as natural as much as possible. Anything too selly puts people off straight away. And I do think if your influencer you're working with has a style, you've got to let them keep that with your product. You can't force them. And I've worked with some people and said, right, we want this caption, we want this. And I'm like, right, that's great, that's what you want, but you won't get as much engagement with me putting that out there, because my followers want my voice and my writing to come across. So making sure that it is whatever the campaign is that it fits the product, but it really does promote the influencer as well. So it feels like it is what the followers have signed up for, part of their feed, quite a natural partnership, not a forced one.
I think that's a really good point. I think probably for marketers listening to this podcast, that how many times you might say to a client, it's like, just give me the free rein to help you get what you want out of this. And it might go against what they feel, but you need to give that permission to do it. Otherwise, there's no point in paying somebody to do something for you if you're just going to dictate all the rules. Otherwise, you might as well just go and do it yourself and just get what you were going to get in the first place. Whereas if you paying a professional to do it for you, let them do the job, and change the tone of voice or maybe the image or the graphic to suit what's going to get the best result. I always put it down to a good example. If you're going to get your car repaired, if you're not an experienced mechanic, you wouldn't be standing over your mechanic telling them, asking cross-questioning what to do and how to do things, and you just let them get on and do the job, and you make sure that the car is obviously drivable at the end of it, and that's it. And I think it's the same with social media marketing and influencing, that you need to let them sort of do the job and do the job well. Just one other quick question. What do you think is the best influencer marketing campaign that you've seen?
It's funny at the minute because things seem to change quite quickly with Reels, and where I'm very much, the still shot very much works in my feed and for interiors community as well. But I have been so impressed by some of the Reels I've seen recently, and really that I just looked, oh, that's clever, and I think the ones which make you actually enjoy it as well, so you don't feel like being so come down to the Woodston brilliant one with Wix, and it was really clever, just really light-hearted and fun. And I do think the way Reels are moving for Instagram, I would recommend, if you are going to be influencing, I would go down that line if you can, because the still shot is sort of not getting as much feature stuff, but with a brand, the static can be quite dull in some ways, that you thought, oh, I've seen this before. Where Reels, you can be really creative at the minute. So I would say some of the best campaigns out there with influencers right now are where the Reels are quirky, they're clever, they're funny, that you at the end of it, you just think, that wasn't an ad, that was just like quite good to watch.
So I know there's a big backlash about Instagram and this move to video content, and that's another whole podcast. But I think that the growth of Reels allows a load of chance for Instagram to get back to its roots, where people are so creative and so imaginative, and it's for free. They're doing it on their phones and they're doing it in their sitting rooms. People are investing a lot of time, hours and hours, and that can be seen, can't it? But they are clever, and they are funny, and they are giving massive brands, a real run for their money. What people we know are making up in their living rooms. I can't imagine what, companies in London sitting in posh offices, they really must be terrified, because these people are coming up with, influencers are making marketing campaigns that blow their socks off. They're very, very good and done for cheap and done for free. And so they deserve the revenue. And I think you touched on that. I know how many hours Fran invests in her Instagram as a hobby and as a passion, and her audience, not for the monitoring side of that, but as that relationship with that community. And I think all of this is about that, and Instagram being that community, which some brands are wanting to use for their own purpose. And again, that's a path that everybody has to navigate, isn't it? I think sometimes influencers get a bit of a bad rep, and that's doesn't have to be the truth, and it doesn't have to be the way it goes, does it? It's about everybody's integrity, the brand's integrity, and and as a brand, you have to decide where you want to place your product, and as an influencer, you have to decide
where you're gonna what you're gonna sell, or if you're not gonna sell, or if you want. I know, for example, Fran does a lot for free. The bars and the restaurants and the just small indie businesses in our town. That's a lot of your content, isn't it? You just love where you live, and that's your kind of story, isn't it? But that's not paid influencing.
Oh no, but you can get a free drink.
Yeah, you don't even get 50p off a hot chocolate, Josh. I'm talking to you and Signals. He doesn't listen to us anyway. So it is a really, really good topic. I think we could ask Fran to talk for hours, and we would say thank you for coming.
It's been a pleasure.
You might think of like wanting to come back. You might want to think about maybe in the future we could do a revenge of the influencer. You could come and tell us the horror stories of working. Who is your favourite brand you've ever worked with?
Oh,
It's obvious.
yeah, I like them.
I like that. But what about your big paying brand?
I really like the campaign I did with Berry. That was really good fun.
Yeah,
It was just, and what they allowed us and what they wanted was just snapshots of lockdown, and I had quite a lot on my phone, and it wasn't. It was just worked because I wasn't creating.
Who was that with? Sorry.
Tell them,
who was that with?
Just quickly, tell them what that last, because I think that was an awesome campaign from the very marketing agency. They captured a tone and a moment of lockdown, and Fran will tell you about it. But it was so clever.
Yeah, so were bringing into. They wanted to start up more. I think what they wanted was to tap into their interiors side of there. So Berry's very much clothing brand, electrical brand,
an online catalogue.
Online, but
very right. Yep, got it.
They wanted to bring in bringing up their home side of it, and they got in touch with quite a few influencers, varying different followers. There was some working at around 10 to 20,000, some higher up around me 50 to 60,000, and then there was some 100 plus. And they just with the theme tune Our House Madness just said, the first one, we just want you to show how your house has been used this year in lockdown. So I had I'd used it for yoga. I'd been doing Zoom online, so I had me falling over from headstands, and the kids doing gym workouts and PE with Joe Wicks. Yeah, we turned it into a pop-up restaurant, which was your idea. I nicked, and just lots of little footage, and it was just like a little montage of the year, and it was really, but with the Our House theme song, which is really catchy. And then they did 3 other ones, like How Do You Spend a Saturday Night. So that one was I got the boys dancing on the table in my high heels, and we were doing got the jukebox on, which we've got, and had some little bit clips of that. And then the third one was about what's the next one we did? The night. Completely gone out of my head.
I can't remember. But they just made it. They didn't do much, and it was like a mainstream television campaign, and they launched it in very much with like Ant and Dec on a Saturday night, and these made for Instagram adverts were actually on prime time television, like made of people's homes, and were very aware, very, very aware of the power of that kind of influencing. And it was so clever. It was very raw, not edited, very authentic, all the values of Instagram, but played super well, and also echoing all the brilliant values of lockdown, all the wanting to be together, the fun that we've had in our homes. It was just very, very clever, and it was a real thrill that you were part of it. We were so excited in our house watching it.
Yeah, and like something on a spectrum, huge things with it as well. It was really, really good. And then they took some. I didn't get picked, but they did take some influencers for their main TV ad, didn't they, on the snippets and stuff. So it all came together on lots of different levels.
That's great. It was really good. But you've done exciting things.
Yeah,
and I think more exciting things to come. And everybody should follow Only Girl in the Gap and see how this goes, and watch and see how Fran continues to grow her account, really.
Thank you so much for your time. We're running out of time, but thank you so much for your time this afternoon. I think, I definitely learned loads. I think Gemma did as well. I could see lots of heads nodding in the background, and I hope everybody listening heard loads as well. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. If you've got any questions for Fran, we'll put the links in the show notes. You obviously can reach out to Fran herself if you're interested in working with her. Or if you've got any questions for us for a future podcast episode with Fran, do get in contact with us. We've got a new podcast coming up in September, so make sure you stay tuned and put your notifications on. But until then, keep well.
Bye.
Bye.